What's going on, workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And today we're talking about a topic that Chris will actually have as a solo video here on Gaming Kinda. Chris, do you know when this is dropping? Do you have a schedule, kinda?
Oh, I have a schedule, kinda. It's loose. It's already filmed and uploaded. Videos are going live every other day over there right now to pace out the reaction content. Those are every other day. And the ones that are just like this, where I'm just talking, are on the in-betweens. And so if this is not live by the time what we're recording now is live, and there's an interest, then that moves it up the schedule. There's not a plan. I'm about 7 or 8 posts into the future. So I am trying to work ahead because I think sometime this summer, pre-Endwalker, I might want to take what are these called? They're called like a break from work. My understanding, time away. That doesn't seem right.
It's called laziness.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'd like to take a laziness window.
Yeah,
I'd like to take a lazy.
Exactly. Everybody deserves some of those from time to time. So this is a topic that came up organically. You were hanging out on stream and you were seeing kind of 2 themes. So the second theme, which will be tomorrow's video, just to give you guys a heads up, is does story even matter, especially when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, but you could extrapolate that to anything else. Now, I know that's going to be a spicy topic, so we want to kind of just give you guys who are actually watching our videos a heads up. Tomorrow's going to be kind of a troll day. Not like we're trying to troll you, but this is what the community's talking about.
Oh, the thumbnail will look like clickbait because the topic is spicy.
Spicy. So, just a heads up, tomorrow is going to be an interesting day. So, that's what we're going to be filming right after this one. But once you set up where this is coming from, just to give everybody like a heads up why this is being discussed with them.
So Jesse Cox, if you guys are not following Jesse Cox, if you want to put your Prime sub in the most efficient place on Twitch, Jesse Cox has been getting into Final Fantasy over the last year, roughly, last August. And he's a longtime WoW vet. And he's been enjoying the game. He's been taking it very seriously, very thoroughly. And he is writing his World of Warcraft versus Final Fantasy XIV script in the context of the fact that he's been thinking about this thought for a long time. And there's a lot of interest right now. And so it just got moved up the calendar so that it could be out there, so he could put his thoughts in the ring. And he was writing the script live on Twitch. And so there's a discussion, and part of the discussion is when he hits a point where he hits like roadblock and he's looking for a word, the chat's spamming words, or, hey, like, is this quite phrased right? And so there's kind of like a weird, 1,000 to 1,500 ghostwriters going off in the chat. And then there's the rest of the time, there's just chat talking. Now, for people that know him across multiple games, there are people in chat that are huge fans of WoW, and there are people in chat that are huge fans of Final Fantasy. And obviously they feel different about those separate games right now due to their current health. But when you're talking about a holistic view, a 15-year view of WoW, and at least back to 2.0 for Final Fantasy, you can't just look at the current state of 9.1. You have to look at these whole games and what they are when you're comparing them, because he's going to reference events in his favorite memories that are from years ago. And so when you do that, this concept kind of came up in chat about respecting your time. And there were people going off where they were 100% sure that their thought was right and the other thoughts were wrong, but insert either title. Like there were people who are like, my problem with WoW is it doesn't respect your time like Final Fantasy does. And somebody literally, like, the chat was moving so fast, maybe they didn't see it, but literally the next thing that I saw as like a paragraph reply was like, one of my issues with Final Fantasy compared to World of Warcraft is like, as a new player, I just don't feel it respects my time as I make the move over. And I was like, wait a second. Does only one of these games respect your time and the other does not?
This is an interesting topic for me because I definitely fall into the category that Final Fantasy XIV respects my time, because it makes a lot of the things that I could participate in that do take a lot of time completely optional. Now, those might not seem completely optional things if you're new to the game. Oh, I want to get a relic. Yeah, that sounds like something I need to do. Well, like when you've kind of gone and done this tango a little bit, like, no, like, get it because it looks cool. But at the end of the day, like, you don't have to have it. No one is gatekeeping you because you don't go and get this weapon, and the way that they structure it out makes it that choice. So from a respecting my time perspective, like at the core of it, I look like a poster child for the respecting of time. Brian, how can you possibly play this game? You have a job. You make YouTube content. You have 5 children. Yeah, and I can jump in and play 14 in a buffet style, hum, 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 or I'm just going to pop in for roulette, whenever I can for a little bit of time when maybe the kids are napping. Like there's strategic things that I have to choose to do on my end because it's not fun having to stop the game because somebody skinned their knee. But that's just me. So I feel like this game respects my time completely. I can't weigh in on the WoW not doing it because I felt WoW was very similar to my experience here. I could log in, I could play. There was never anything that I felt like, oh God, I have to go do this horrible grind just so I can go do this one fun thing over here. Like I didn't see that. So that's how I look at respecting time in an MMO. Like there's nothing wrong with having insane grinds. I think games need that. I think games need ultimate. I think games need a wide range of style of play, and that's what makes MMOs both difficult and at the same time kind of maybe a little bit scary if you're not sure where to go and what to do. Like Chris, how about you? Like you're the streamer here, you're the full timer. Like, do you feel one game respects your time over the other, or is there like, do we need to redefine what respecting time means? Because I've never thought of this as a topic. That's why when you posted about it, I was like, that's interesting. I've never considered that.
So there are ways that my wife and I are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways that our childhoods are similar. There are ways that the college we went to is identical. The degree we got is similar. It's in the same field with different specialties. I've worked underneath her current VP when I had a job. We have worked with some of the same people. We have been to some of the same places both before we met each other and since. We share a lot of life experiences. And now in work from home, I think a lot of people have learned that you can be more married than you were. She's the only human that I was interacting with on a regular basis for like a full year. And so we're very similar in a lot of ways, but there are other ways where we're not. And there can be friction where one of us believes that from my perspective, that I have been respectful of her in this set of actions, that I've been fair to her in me doing something different than the way she wants it done. But I feel that I was fair and I met her halfway, or maybe even more than halfway. And from her perspective, that doesn't seem to be the case. That can go both ways. And so I think the way these games feel like they respect my time has a lot more to do with how aligned am I with the dev's intentions and the dev's execution.
Okay.
I think that if you take your exact same amount of time right now and we introduce you to new Anti-Brian, and Anti-Brian has never tried a Final Fantasy game, and you meet him and you're like, dude, we have a lot in common. We both have 5 kids. We're both programmers. I cannot believe I am about to blow your mind. And you introduce him, Anti-Brian, to Final Fantasy, and you say, you've got to try this. So Endwalker releases November 19th in early access. You got to join us by the 23rd. It's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Do you feel that with your current amount of time that Anti-Brian will have his time respected to be prepared for Endwalker?
That is, okay, a really interesting question, and actually being echoed by chat. So chat is here with us live and somewhat talking about that in terms of endgame, but also in terms of story, and that basically saying Streak here saying, I guess optional is subjective, right? Like the story is not optional, it is a requirement. This is where like I definitely say in terms of its story and being the gate, if you're into story, which is going to tie into tomorrow's video, starting now, like the best time to have started was 7 years ago. I guess the second best time would be to start now, clearly. But I don't know how I get somebody to do that if they've never played a Final Fantasy game before and going all the way to Endwalker and not crossing that finish line exhausted. Again, like setting up the scenario, like kids, job, work, life balance. But like the thing is you'll never know, right? Like the subjective side of it is that like if he's got some downtime, you can play Final Fantasy in bits and pieces and chunks. And if you're enjoying it, then yeah, like the game respects your time. It is subjective in that way, like Streak, butchering the name, is saying in that regards, right? Because Anti-Brian, like if Anti-Brian in this case does like the experience, the time ends up being well worth it. If you're slogging through, if you're just like, oh god, okay, what happens after Heaven's Word? Oh, there's Stormblood, okay. All right, now I'm in Stormblood. Okay, like I'm still not enjoying it. Like, no, that's not time well spent, time well budgeted in that regards. But the core of it is that the leveling experience has gotten easier. Travel, especially in the ARR zones, has gotten easier. The devs, vision and cutting certain quests has gotten easier. The game has a wide range of new and returning player bonuses that help bring and continue to establish the community, so that even if Anti-Brian is playing through the game for the first time, it could generally lead to a very positive experience. And the story is also ending in Endwalker. And that, I say, is a tip of the hat to respecting your time. You can't have 30 seasons of Lost or 100 seasons of Game of Thrones. Like you got to have a good start, middle, and end to that offering. And essentially, Endwalker, like if you're like analogizing this as like a meal, is the dessert. Like we've had the appetizers, we've had the meal, we've had the salad, and now we're waiting for the dessert to complete the thought. And I think that actually, to me, like if I was putting myself not having played this game, in that role of, I just wish I had like just a mustache to represent Anti-Brian here, like, yeah, I think there's a respecting of the time there because it aligns with the dev's intention, because that makes it less intimidating to get into the game. There's an ending to the story, and yeah, we might start a new story. We don't know what's happening. Only Yoshi P and the devs do. They allude to things that we infer on what we believe it to be. But the story ends. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I can't wait to see how that plays out. So to that person, it's not like, hey, come do this, and then we're just going to keep kicking that can down the street, and it ends up just feeling like this cyclically, which is a critique that people have leveraged against the end game progression from ARR to Storm Shadowbringers, where a new player doesn't have that because they haven't done the end game grind until they get to the end game. So it doesn't feel as repetitive, but for veteran players, like it can feel like it does. But I think that's a system that respects your time, because I can get caught up. Nobody can like blast past me. I still want more things, like as a player, as a fan. I do want like a more rich and well-defined like mid-core kind of content system. And I don't know, maybe that's the farming. Who knows? I don't know when Endwalker is going to be. Maybe it's the PvP refresh that's coming. But yeah, I think to Anti-Brian's situation, I think there is a respecting of time here, because there is a conclusion to the story. Even if you do want more, the world's not ending. The novel is.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it has to do with your expectations. There are people that are in in-game progression that have worked very hard to get their best in slot gear. Ultimate being canceled feels disrespectful. Whether or not it's something that can be avoided, whether or not there's a justification, it doesn't feel good that, hey, we balanced the budget by just cutting that thing you wanted. It was really great. It was really easy. We didn't want to cut anything, but when we had to, we cut that thing you wanted. That doesn't feel good. People who wanted a title from Ishgard Restoration jumped a huge amount of time in. People who want a house, I got a house. And then what do? You plant a garden plot. What do you want to plant? Thavnarian onions. Very cool. How do you grow Thavnarian onions? Well, you need to water them once a day. Oh, okay. So I just need to log in once a day every single day of the week. All right, well, that's kind of a task. Actually, the way the watering works is it resets the timer on wilting to 24 hours, which means if you log in at the exact same time every day, that won't work. You're going to need to log in 1 minute earlier each day, which means eventually there's going to be a day where you need to log in twice. So what people say is, well, why don't you just water when you log on and water when you log off? Well, you're assuming now that I'm playing every day, not just logging on every day, because I have to play for some amount of time that makes the end of my play session now later than the time I'm going to log on the next day. And you're assuming my schedule's so consistent that I'm playing the same time every day. Right. It doesn't feel respectful. It doesn't. And so depending on how you're choosing to consume this content, when I quit World of Warcraft, Mista Pandaria, when I looked at it at the time, I knew for a fact it was WoW's fault. WoW had changed. They were somebody different. You're not the game I fell in love with. You are something different. In TBC, they introduced world quests, your daily quests, right? The beginning of where we got where we are today. The first seed was planted with these daily repeatable quests for things like your Netherwing Mount, your Magister's Terrace dailies. Looking forward to doing those again. And man, I did those every day. And I went and I farmed my world drop recipes, and I did my grinds, and it opened up the game in a way that vanilla never could. It was incredible. In Wrath of the Lich King, oh, you like those? Well, now we've got one for a group of fishermen on the water. We've got another one for a famous hunter in a forest. We have these incredible dailies. We have this roulette system to help you jump into dungeons more often. By the time we're in Cataclysm, we've long surpassed this to now we have gated opening stories where you're watching this Dome and Enclave experience kind of open up before your very eyes as we open up the Firelands. There's this incredible experience. And as we go into Mist of Pandaria, you know what the problem is, and I hear people asking for this in Final Fantasy regularly, is the number of dailies you can do per day, especially if you're new and you want to go back and do legacy dailies, really should be increased. And by this point, they'd increase that cap to 25. But you know what? The problem with 25 is if I have 10 unlocked in this zone and I have 10 that I need to do for progression, 25 runs out pretty quick. There's a pet I want. There's a mount I want. I'm not busy this Saturday. I want to play more. You know what? Screw it. Let's remove the daily cap.
Right.
It's removed. And so what I did to optimize the way I was prepared for raid, the way I raided, the way I ran dungeons, the way I did mini pets, the way I did crafting, the way I did exploration content, slowly working on my lore master, is I broke it down like I would for studying for a test. I said every single day when I log in, I'm going to do 25 daily quests, possibly more if a new wave unlocks. Every single day when I log in, I'm going to do at least one quest hub in a zone that I've never completed to work towards my lore master achievement. Every single day when I log in, I'm going to do a percentage of my weekly raid grind if it's not a raid night, and that's going to be divided out over the nights I'm not raiding so that I'm prepared on the nights that I am for this multi-hour raid session where I need to be logged on early, I need to be attentive, I need to be paying attention. Now, in between, I want to work through some of the dungeon achievements, I want to work through exploration, I want to try PvP. And as I name all of this, I feel like I needed to take a breath describing that. Much less committing to 2, 3, 4, 6 hours a night of required to-do list prior to when I get to have fun. So what did I do? I quit.
Yeah.
And I came to Final Fantasy, and people are like, well, how come you avoid the Savage rating? How come you avoid Ultimate rating? How come you don't have all your dailies maxed? Like, you say these things are important. You say mounts are a currency to you, but you don't have all the easy to get mounts. How come you don't, if it's so easy to make gil, because you do all this gold making in WoW, why don't you have a lot of gil? Because slowly over my time in 14, I realized, yes, WoW had changed, but I had also changed. And at least half of the responsibility for that relationship coming to a close was on me.
Yeah.
And if I do not want Final Fantasy to go down the same road, I need to not be the version of me that was playing WoW in Mist of Pandaria. Final Fantasy can absolutely be an identical game to the game I quit. It was me. And these games are massive. And so the respect the time is something that, no, I don't feel the devs can know how to respect my time. I don't feel the devs, because they don't know the value of my time.
Right.
They don't know what is my currency, what feels like an easy grind. They don't know what feels hard. Some people complain the relics are too fast. Other complain they're too slow. They're not in alignment with all. What are they trying to get to now? 30 million of us? Their goal is to have 30 million people that have a unique individual opinion. That's their objective. So no, they're never going to be in alignment. It's up to you to defend. They're going to put out their content, and it's up to you to defend. And their job, in my mind, is to consistently communicate what their plans are to execute. Because there's nothing more frustrating than starting a relic grind and then that relic grind changing. And you go, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait a minute.
Whoa, I gave you a ton of time in step one, and now you're saying I can't get to the end?
Right. It's a really good perspective to think. There's still, like, again, you know, you are the driving factor in that. And that's where the psychology of gamers and gamers optimizing the fun out of anything, like, breaks it down. That's where, for me, like, I'm actually anti-daily. I don't like the concept of dailies. The reward structure's so good. I would rather the structure for logging in be the game and the gameplay, not this check mark. Because you're right, like, dailies run the risk of becoming that task list, because people have rebranded them the chores list. Oh, I got to do my 14 chores today. I got to do these chores today. Like, that's not the goal. Like, and the dailies are generated because they work psychologically you go, oh God, I'm gonna go in because I would be a fool to let that pass me by. Like the reward structure is too good. So at the end of the day,
you did the math. If you did your World Quest chest every day through BFA, you got like 2 million gold or something stupid. It was some just crazy number.
Yeah.
All you got to do is your dailies. I just put out a video on how to get rich in Final Fantasy. All you got to do is your league quest. Just keep making cookies. When do I stop?
Never.
You don't stop. Ever. It's 108,000 gil a day.
Now I do want to point out one thing. Your garden doesn't die once it starts wilting. That's just the symbol. So just so you know, like you can go it once it's got the purple, you can go back and do that. And the other side of it is that for the content being designed, it was originally designed as a free company, meaning you would have multiple people who are all tending the crop. However, that has since changed, and so yes, like in fact, we've grown some onions, and Clink, he's one of our moderators in on our Discord, awesome guy, and literally he was like, "Hey, when you're on, will you mind just continually checking the crops?" I'm like, "Not a problem." Like as a communal gardening thing, it's a great system. As an individual daily thing, oof. Yeah,
so
and that's
3 wilts on Thavnarian onions, 3 wilts and they die permanently. You get 3 lives.
3 lives, 3 chances.
3 lives, you're done. And there are plants that people have told me don't wilt, and so there are other options. But of course, like if that's the reward you want, then that doesn't feel good. The EA, right? It's not a loot box; it's a surprise loot mechanic. They're not chores, guys. They're retention mechanics. Our goal is to keep you entertained. Our goal is to keep you engaged while we're working on the next wave of content. Our goal is to pace you. It's where dailies come from. It's where weeklies come from. It's a goal. They restrict the rate at which we can acquire all the gear from something so that people don't accidentally eat all their rations on day one. And it's like, hey, the next ration truck's in 2 weeks. Are you good? Oh no. Oh no. Like I didn't prepare for that. Okay, well maybe you should have only run the dungeon once this week. Oh, okay, I can do that. I think simply put, MMOs are a really easy way to not respect your time. Survival games are the same way. You can look up and go, Steam says that I spent 1,000 hours in this game. I haven't even finished anything yet. I think that's a really, so I think gaming in general, it's a recreational thing. The goal is not to respect your time from the get-go.
Right. It's it comes down to, outside of respecting your time, a place where you want to spend, or a place where you want to waste your time in that regards, as opposed, and that's where I think that's what I look for in games. Like I want to be here playing and putting my time into it, as opposed to like having that kind of psychological hook. I kind of tend to pull away from that for the most part. I don't cap out weekly in 14. I haven't for expansions. It's like you get you end up just having that structure, and that's just how I've evolved and been able to continue to play the game and enjoy the game, while at the same time, making the most out of it and having my interactions with it always positive, as opposed to, getting to a point where I'm like, I can't believe I've played this game for 5,000 hours. They've changed. Yeah, it's a game of change. MMOs are a game of change. Games of services are games about change. If they don't change, you're going to leave. And the fact that if you played for 5,000 plus hours and then you're like, all right, tells me they were doing something right. Hopefully. All right. Yeah. Chris, you got any final thoughts before we wrap this video and get to the spicy topic?
No. I recorded everything else I want to say over on Gaming Kinda.
Guys, be sure to check out
have this conversation with you.
His channel, Gaming Kinda, for his his videos. He's been doing some reaction content tomorrow on stream. If you're still watching this video here on Work to Game, I guess is actually going up on stream. If you're watching this at 11 o'clock today, he's reacting to Preach. Preach is talking about Final Fantasy XIV. A lot of New
Genesis.
But you're playing that in the morning.
Playing that in the morning, reacting in the afternoon.
Yeah,
Friday's Guild Wars followed by a podcast.
Boop, boop, boop. Yeah. So
big week.
Big week. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this for Work to Game. My name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a fantastic day. We hope to see you in our next video, but until then,
take care.